Welcome back, everybody. Today we're doing something a little bit different, a compilation video. Some of my absolute favorite blades that I've done so far. If you recognize them, let me know. If they're new, well, then welcome. Now they're not new to you anymore. I hope you enjoy this video. Maybe you can play it in the background while you work. Maybe you can fall asleep to it. I don't know. Whatever works for you, but let me know what you think. Do you remember this blade that I forged? It was an amazing blade that sold for $10,000, but my customer got a hold of me and said that he wants another one, but this time he wants it to be light, nimble, and fast. So today that's exactly what we're gonna make. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today is episode 1 of turning this design into a usable, functional, lightweight blade. Today we're going to make the Damascus billet according to the design, and we're going to draw it out into a usable bar stock. So let's get to it. Well, before you get upset at the temperature, all we're doing right now is bringing it up just enough so that it's malleable, but it's still below that oxidation point. So we'll squish out any of those gaps, flux it, bring it up a little bit higher, squish it one more time so there's no gaps in there, and then flux it again, bring it all the way up to temperature, and do that first forge row. Okay, so that 20-layer billet is drawn out. Now we need to cut it in 3 places, stack it again, which will triple the layers, and then draw it out one more time, cut it in half, fold it again, which will give us 120 layers total. This part's pretty tricky because though I do love my 12-ton press, it's a little bit underpowered for this, but someday I'll be able to afford an upgrade, but not yet. So there's a lot of monkeying around to try to keep it from forging cold shuts in, which at one point you'll see it fish slips on both ends, and so I gotta cut those off, but at some point I'll upgrade to a press that can handle some bigger billets. Okay, so now let's talk about this pattern and why we're going to include this piece. What we have here is a center core billet that I'm making in order to accomplish the lightning storm style of pattern that I'm going for. We have 2 pieces of 15N20 on either side, and then a center core of 1095, doubled up. When you put 2 pieces of the same kind together, that's called the Hata technique. And the reason we're doing that is to increase the thickness of the individual layers. Here's why. When you draw out your billet, you cut and stack it to double the layer count, and then you continue, and therefore when you get enough layers you can manipulate it however you want it. So what we're doing with this blade is a little bit different. We're going to cut our billet into stacks, 2 separate stacks, and combine them into 120 layers, and in the center we're going to put this. So that what that does is it causes a nice clean border that we can then work with. If we took this pattern and then drew it out, it would look a little something like this. You would have your Damascus jackets, which is a poorly rendered version of that, with a strong stripe here of the 15 and 20, and then a very dark 1095 edge. But what we're going to do is a little bit different. We're doubling up that 15 and 20 to give it more mass to draw it out by hammering it. Now normally you wouldn't want to really distort that pattern so much, but because we're going for a storm theme, that's exactly what we want to do. So when we have the billet like this, and we hammer in those bevels really aggressively, we stretch those bevels out. So you have your Damascus jackets, and then you have your 15 and 20 that's being drastically stretched out. And because it's so thick, because we're using the Hada technique, it stretches it out even more aggressively, which is exactly what we did with that storm blade that I showed you earlier. So what's going to happen then is we're going to have our final look with a bevel here with a really strong pattern. And then our bevels are going to be kind of like this, also with a really strong pattern. And then our Damascus jackets completed with some fullers. So in order to accomplish this, we need to add this piece, draw it out into a usable billet, and then hammer out that details with a hammer. Okay, so at this point, the billet is nice and solid. We have 120 layers with technically 3 extra layers because of the Hada technique in the middle. And we're ready to draw it out into a blade now. We have it super thick, so we have plenty of room to manipulate it and draw it out to the specifications that we wanted, like we were saying, to make that pattern nice and dramatic. But honestly, this is just the beginning. Thanks for watching episode 1. Next episode, hopefully next Monday, we're going to include the next portion, which is finishing stretching out that billet, hammering out the profile, grinding it, and then getting it heat treated. So subscribe. Stay tuned for next time. Here we go. It is heat treated. And welcome back, everyone. It's episode 2 of turning this 120 layer billet of Storm Damascus into a blade for my customer. Let's heat up the forge, hammer this thing out. Before we do, let's get a little sneak peek of what we have for this pattern. So we're gonna grind this a little bit, clean it up, and then really make it pop by doing a test etch. So I immediately forgot to do that because I like forging so much. So check it out, let's keep forging. Now, it's important to remember that we are using the drawing dies to draw it out longer. But remember, we have a specific pattern that we're trying to accomplish that needs to be drawn out by the hammer to stretch those pieces of 15 and 20. So the only way to accomplish that is to now stretch it out this way, which will then make it less of a tall profile, but then give us some meat to stretch it out with a hammer. So before we go much further, let's make sure we do that. It's looking pretty good if you ask me. It is just a plain billet, plain bar that we've drawn out to the length that I need to work on the next step. And what is that next step, you may ask? Well, I want to forge in the tip, and then from there, with this little extra meat we have, draw out that belly to give it that lightning storm look that we are going for right there. And then this is a little extra thick so that I can still stretch it out to be a little bit longer, and then forge in the tang as well, because it's going to be a through tang pinned over on the other side. So let's go ahead and work on that tip. The more that we forge out the bevels, the more it stretches that steel backwards. So it stretches out that pattern, but it curves it, which we don't want. So we need to work back and forth, laying out the spine, flattening the spine, forging out those bevels more. Remember, the design of a blade is very angular and sharp and strong, and it's got some strong lines to it. So I'm going to basically establish the shape of the blade, and then because it's so thick, it'll give you a little room to draw out that spine, but then stretch it out for the full length that we want. All right, check it out so far. Looking pretty good. This is no grinder at all, not just yet, just hammer work, which is already looking pretty good. It's nice and light, and once we clean it up on the grinder, it'll be even more lightweight and nimble, and then we'll be ready for the heat treat. So let's get to it. So I chose to do a hollow grind, 1, because I really like the look and it gives a better cut, 2, and 3, it helps to bring out some of the weight of the blade as opposed to a concave or a flat grind. And this blade is meant to be lightweight, quick, nimble, easy to manipulate. So by bringing that hollow grind nice and deep all the way up to the fullers, what will happen with that is it'll bring the weight from the tip of the blade more to the handle, and then we'll have a nice thin profiled guard and pommel, which will make it more weighted in the hand. Now, we don't want it too much weighted to the hand, but we do want it to be nice and balanced. So the length of the blade plus a deep fuller and a nice deep hollow grind the whole way through will make this a very nimble blade. Okay, I like it. Huh? Look at that. Yeah. It is under 2 pounds right now for a 21-inch blade and about a 1-inch ricasso. And the tang, she is ready for heat treat. Now remember, heat treat is 3 different steps. 1, normalizing. 2, scares me every time, quenching. 3, tempering. So let's normalize it. So what is normalizing, you might ask? Or you might not, I don't know. I'm not there in the room with you. But I'm going to tell you what it is. Normalizing, or thermal cycling, is the process of heating the blade up and letting it cool. Now, what's the difference between doing that and when you're in the forge? Well, what happens is when you're forging, as you heat the blade up, the grain structure expands. And then it slightly shrinks as it cools. And then you heat it right back up because you're forging, and then it expands again, and then it expands again. And so over the course of forging out a blade, the grain structure gets very, very coarse, kind of like a brown sugar kind of texture. So when you're normalizing or thermal cycling, you are heating it back up, and then you're letting it cool slowly, cool to touch, which slowly shrinks it to very tight, even grain structure. And the reason that we want that is we want the grain structure to be tight and even so that it's strong, because the coarser that it is, the more likely it is to break even after tempering. Now, what we're gonna do, hopefully you can hear me all right, fresh out of the heat, it's still slightly malleable. So what we're gonna do to optimize it is lay it down on this wood, and as it's cooling, we're gonna clamp it between 2 pieces of wood that allow for a little bit of the extra geometry that a blade like this has, a little bit of flex. It's a trick I picked up through the years. And now this will squeeze it and help it to cool evenly, and it'll help it to avoid warps. It still scares me. Here we go. It is heat treated. So we tempered it at 425 for about 2 hours. It is flexible, and you can see it still needs some cleanup on the lines, but we did the rough grinding. We'll clean up that fuller, we'll clean up the hollow grind we're doing, and it is 1.7 pounds right now. It'll be a little bit lighter, the blade itself, once I'm done grinding it. I was shooting for 1.6 plus the fittings, but so far so good. Now, next time, of course, not only are we going to polish this, we're going to just show that etch, bring it out in some ferric chloride, and then we'll do a coffee etch as well, and then we'll do the handle and finally piece it all together and test it. So make sure you stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks for watching. Here is that etch. Welcome back to the final episode. Let's not waste any time. This blade has been tempered, and now it is ready to be polished up so that we can reveal its Damascus pattern. Let's get right to it. working our way through the grits of the belts here. I started at about 24 grit, and now I'm working my way all the way up to 400 in prep for hand sanding. Oh yeah, this bad boy's really coming along. I just gotta do the other side, then we can test that shit. Nice deep hollow grind to keep this blade light, to keep it fast, and so that the cuts are nice and clean. It causes less friction while you're cutting, but it makes the edge a little bit more delicate. So there's a fine balance with the geometry. In between, you got to keep it nice and cool, otherwise you'll overheat it and potentially wreck that temper that you worked so hard on. So let's make sure we don't do that. For higher end blades like this, you gotta do a hand sanding. There is just no beating the look of a hand sanded blade. So that's why we brought it all the way up to about 400 grit on the belt sander, so that then we drop it down to about 220 grit when I'm hand sanding, and I work out all of those lines. It's a slow, tedious process, but we get all the scratches out, bring it to a clean satin finish, so that when we polish it for the etch, it is a beautiful design without any issues. But it's a lot of elbow grease, it's a lot of work, but it's definitely worth it. Okay, she's a little dirty still, but we'll hit her with some soap. And then we'll put her in that etch, and we will see exactly how that pattern turned out. Fair warning, the continuity on this video is going to be abysmal because I have kids. And I got a new microphone, so we're going to try this out and see how it sounds. But here is that etch. I am so very happy with how the polish came out and that pattern came out, making it look like a lightning bolt running down the entire blade of this 120 layer jacketed Damascus blade. I am so very happy with it, but it's not complete unless it has a handle. So ladies and gentlemen, let's give it a handle. So what kind of materials are we going to use for the handle? Well, for the guard and for the pommel, I've chosen this piece of mild steel, and we're going to be using slices of this guy, which is also this is a medium carbon. And so we're just going to slice off some pieces and use that for the pommel. Yeah, that's all I have to say. There's something I didn't tell you. My customer didn't ask for one of these. My customer asked for two of these.
Oh, you probably want to see the blades, huh? They're both 1.14 pounds, 120 layer jacketed storm Damascus pattern, and they are a dream to wield. But don't take my word for it. Let's go test it. And there you go, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this 3-part series. Let me know what you think. Let me know how you think it turned out, what we should do next time. I have some more orders coming up where I'm going to be doing more just like this. If you liked it, well, of course, I got to say subscribe. We do all kinds of stuff. We're going to be doing a lot more. But seriously, thank you so much for watching, guys. It helps me out so much. And I just really like doing it. So what a blessing to take care of my family with what I do. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I tried something new, and in the end, it really didn't work out. But I'm also going to show you how we resolved it. A few weeks ago, I received a commission unlike most others. The customer reached out to me with a simple request to forge a blade in honor of his mother who had just recently passed away. Now, as a bladesmith, of course, I'm used to making things that are functional. I make tools, hunting knives, camp knives, axes, all sorts of different things to serve a purpose. But every so often, I'll get an order to make something that means more than that. An order just like this. This blade is something that carries a story and a memory. You see, I had never even met his mother. And now I'm given the responsibility of trying to forge a blade to represent the entirety of a person and to serve as a legacy of her memory. And with that responsibility in mind, I wanted to try something special. It was a technique that I had seen, but I'd never tried it before. So I chose a mystery steel to serve as the center core of this blade, where I would then wrap it with Damascus. So I drew out the bar of Damascus, I folded it over on itself, and I stretched it out. And then I forged this wave pattern so that once I was done forging it out, hopefully I would be able to make this flowy pattern fit the shape of the blade. But unfortunately, I was met with a catastrophic failure. Try though I might, those forge welds were having a very difficult time staying together. Even when I finally got them set, if I were to hammer it and put any pressure on it, it would soon pop. Now I've been forging for 10 years, and I'm very confident in my forge welds, so I was really struggling to figure out what I was doing wrong. But then I remembered years ago where I faced this same situation because I was using a steel that had a high chromium and vanadium content. And so sure enough, after a little bit of testing on the steel that I used, this was very similar to that alloy, and is notorious for being difficult to forge weld. So instead, I decided to switch it up. I chose another piece of mild steel, then I forged it out, forge welded it to itself to make sure that it was an alloy that would stick well together, and it did. Sometimes the only option is to completely start over. And so, that's exactly what I did. I started over, and it was more deliberate. I slowed down, and I chose my materials carefully, instead of letting a rookie mistake and my excitement run away with me. And the more that I thought about it, the more that it seemed fitting for this piece. Because this commission wasn't really about perfection. This was about loss. It was about continuing forward after something precious is lost. And in a strange way, the failure of that first blade became a part of this story. That loss wasn't just the end. It was simply part of the path that led to something different. This story hasn't ended, it just changed directions. We're not replacing something that was lost, but we're carrying it with us into whatever comes next. So I cleaned the slate, I prepared new material, and I began again. This time with a clearer vision and a deeper appreciation for what this piece represented. And it's important to remember that failure has a way of teaching us things that success simply can't do. As the new blade began to take shape, I found myself thinking less about steel and more about legacy. The fact is that most of us won't have statues built in our honor, but that's not really how legacy even works. Legacy lives in the people that we've impacted, the lives we've touched, the lessons we pass on, the kindness that we've shown, the sacrifices that we've made for other people. This would be the way that I would capture her memory so that it could be carried on in some small way. Her memory will live on in this blade. And while it's true that I want this finished piece to feel worthy of the person that it's meant to honor, the fact of the matter is, no matter how much effort I would put into this, there would always be a part of me wondering if I did it just right. And that's part of being a craftsman. You see, it comes all full circle, really. We pour ourselves into the work, and then we have to let it go. We send it to its owner, and we hope that it means something to that person receiving it. So what I can say is this. I'm honored to have been trusted with this project. I'm honored to play even a small role in preserving someone's memory. And I'm grateful that people continue to see value in handmade things. Not because they're perfect, not because they're expensive, but because they carry stories. Stories of struggle, stories of perseverance, stories of the people who came before us. And that's a part of what craftsmanship has always been about. It's not just making things, but it's creating things that will outlive us. Things that remind us of where we've been, who we've loved, and that remind us of what matters the most. So while this blade began as a commission, somewhere along the way it became something more. A reminder that loss is not always the end of a story. Sometimes it's the beginning of a new chapter, a different road. And just like steel in the fire, we don't always emerge unchanged. But with enough patience, enough effort, something memorable can still be made.
Imagine a Norse craftsman living in the woods of the north. He already understands the value of a broad, single-edged blade like the axe. He's forged utility knives. He's forged weapons for offense and for defense. He knows how to create a strong and powerful blade. High carbon steel is at a premium, so he takes mild steel and he forges a channel into it so that he can then inset the high carbon steel, forge welded together, and draw out to be a strong, sharp, yet flexible blade. But now he wants more chopping power without carrying a full-sized axe. So what would he do? Well, he would begin widening the forward section of the blade. Perhaps the point gradually drops a little bit lower. The edge develops a deeper curve than what you see in a axe. Without being too simplistic, the design could be a little more subtle. These are the thoughts that came to me as I was designing this blade. A axe transformed by the mentality of a kukri. with just about every single blade I make. I take it out and I test it. I test the balance, the grip, the weight, how it feels in the hand while you swing it around. This and more is incredibly important. It's not just about how well it cuts and how well the blade holds up under pressure. This is a vital part of it. I really hope you enjoyed this. Make sure you let me know in the comments what you liked. Also let me know in the comments what other blades you think we should do from different cultures and how they might have been realized in an alternate history. Finally, make sure you go and check out my most popular build to date, the Norse Khopesh. I'll put it in the description and I'll put it right here for you guys to check it out. I am Trevor Barrett with Barrett Knives, and I have a lot more coming just like this. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. And if you enjoyed this and you want to see even more just like it, check out our memberships here on YouTube. I have so much more to offer behind the scenes and the specifics of this build and much more to come. What if the Khopesh were a Norse blade? All throughout history, there were thousands of different types of blades that were recorded. But in there are still examples of blades that never existed, but could have. This blade belongs to that category. The Khopesh is one of ancient Egypt's most recognizable swords, appearing over 3,000 years ago. It became famous throughout ancient Egypt, even though its roots likely stretch back even further. Its distinctive forward curve wasn't just an artistic design, it was practical. That weight set toward the front allowed for devastating chopping cuts, while the hook could help control an opponent's weapon or shield. It turned into an elegant solution to a problem that every warrior faced. How do you make steel, or in this case bronze in those days, do the most work possible? Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, the Norse answered that same question, but differently. They forged straight swords. They forged axes, long axes, weapons that were designed around their own traditions and their own uses. History tells us that these two worlds never really met. But what if they did? With this blade, I wasn't trying to make an Egyptian sword with Viking decorations. That would have been relatively easy. Instead, I asked myself a different question. If a Norse smith had inherited the idea of a Khopesh, how would he have built it? To make that come to life, first of all, I had to change the proportions. I made the handle longer. It was long enough to generate leverage during powerful cuts, while still allowing the blade to move quickly. The fittings became more simple, less ceremonial and more utilitarian. The carved grip has Nordic knotwork that adds character and grip without overwhelming the design. Forged not out of bronze, but now out of steel, it reflects the same philosophy. No elaborate Damascus patterns this time, just clean high carbon steel, simple and strong. Exactly the sort of material that I imagine a working smith would have appreciated. Even the construction follows that philosophy. One detail that I'm especially proud of is something that many people won't even notice at first glance. The body of this blade is forged from mild steel, but the cutting edge is high carbon steel. I forged open a channel in the mild steel where I could then inset the high carbon steel and forge weld it all together. Modern steel is good enough that I could have just made the entire thing for one piece of high carbon steel, and that probably would have been simpler, even faster. But historically, the Norse smiths did something very similar with their axes. Good steel was highly valuable, so rather than waste it, they'd forged a softer iron body, and they forge welded a strip of high carbon steel into the bit.
putting the best material exactly where it was needed, right along that cutting edge. I love the idea of carrying that same philosophy into this project. It's a small detail, but it's complicated. So even though that most people won't even see it, it's one of those things that connects this blade to the traditions that I feel inspired in. One of my favorite parts of designing blades like this is discovering how much the silhouette changes your expectations. At first glance, everyone recognizes the curve as a khopesh. But now, the longer you look at it, the less Egyptian it feels. Eventually, your eye begins accepting it as something completely different. Now it looks like it could have hung on the wall of a longhouse somewhere up on the northern coast. That's what I like so much about my Legacy series. It isn't necessarily about fantasy. Sometimes it's about alternate history, taking real cultures and real craftsmanship, real historical designs, and asking where they might have met if history had unfolded just a little bit differently. That's also why I created the North Fire Forge Guild. You see, I wanted a place where people could learn more than just how to swing a hammer. I wanted to help teach design, why certain blades work, why proportions matter, how history influences modern craftsmanship, and how you can develop ideas of your own instead of simply recreating someone else's idea. Whether you're just lighting up your first forge or already making knives, that is the goal of the guild, to help you understand the craft, not just to follow instructions. Now, if that sounds like something that you would like to enjoy, there's a link below. I'd love to have you. Before I start the next Legacy series project, I'd love to hear your ideas. If history had taken just a little bit different path, what blade would you like to see reimagined? Make sure to leave your suggestions in the comment. Who knows? The next Legacy blade might start with your suggestion. Until next time, take care, and I'll see you at the forge. Thank you again so much, everybody, for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I got brand new builds coming every single week. Maybe in the future I'll do another compilation, but for now, we'll see you at the forge.